Hi folks, Dwight Lilly here again with Tilting a Windmill and Right Talk, and this is Wednesday, and I've got a lot to cover here today. We may go over a little bit on the minutes, or I'll have to edit some of this out, but as you know, those who've been watching here, that this is a offshoot from my Tilting a Windmill Facebook blog that I run. You can access that by going to Facebook and then simply putting in the search area up there, Tilting a Windmill, and the site will come up. And on that site, what I do is I try to address the news from the peanut gallery perspective, not the news that the professional media is reporting, where they leave a lot of the small little tidbits out or details, but from the perspective of somebody that's pretty much tuned in to what's going on around here. And I was on that site today finishing up a couple of posts, and I got a little note from them saying that my hit count already this week has been up over 10,400 hits on the few posts that I've made there. So we're making quite an impact out there. People are watching. Some people are commenting, but the important thing for us is to get the messages out there and to help make a better informed public here in Nye County and in Pahrump, Nevada. I'm going to start off today by making a comment, and I feel like I have to because it's been brought to my attention that there's some threats floating around against those who were active in the campaigns prior to the November 2014 elections, and there has been several people verify a comment made by a member of the sheriff department that they were, quote, going to get those people that were speaking out, and I was one of the most vocal people speaking out in favor of Rick Marshall, as most know. And so I wanted to put this out there and let the viewers know that if you were to read somewhere where I was pulled over and arrested for having a pound of cocaine in the trunk of my car or something, that it's nothing more than a setup. And I'll put the message out there that I'm now making sure my car is locked all the time when I'm not away from it. And I've got a professionally installed security system complete with video and digital audio that's 24/7 operating within that car, within our other vehicles, and here at the house. So, and I also want to mention that just the threat of this type of action is a felony. So I'd like for the sheriff department to be made aware that I'm aware of the threats that have been made out there, and we're on top of it, both legally and with equipment. Yesterday, and here is the agenda, was the second Nye County Commissioners meeting for 2015, and it was held here in Pahrump at the Commissioner's office right off the Calvada I, and it was again quite an interesting meeting. If you remember me remarking the last meeting I drove up to Tonopah for, all of the business was taken care of in 2 hours. The meeting started at 10, and at noon it was time to go eat and head back to Pahrump. Well, this is not the case here, and a red flag came up, and I want to bring this out here because it was a pretty big red flag. It might not have been to some people present, but it is to those of us that have been on top of the political scene here and sat in the audience as various Pahrump Town Board meetings and witnessed certain abusive forces in action, by the way, that were remedied by basically kicking the town board form of government down the street and ending it for the time being. The new commission chairperson, Lorinda Wickman, started off basically this meeting yesterday by saying, well, the agenda is really busy. We've got a lot of things to take into consideration, and therefore she would be limiting any comments to 3 minutes from the audience, and and they should be limiting the audience participation. And boy, what a red flag that is. Now, if for those of you who are from Pahrump or have been on top of the politics here and read the newspaper, the town board, previous town boards, took that position by telling the audience that, well, we just don't want to hear your comments, basically. We're going to limit you to when you can talk. We're going to limit how many people can speak to an issue. You know, we just have a lot of things on the agenda, and we just want to get through it. Well, whose fault is that the agenda is so overburdened? I say this to the commissioners. You had a small agenda that took 2 hours up in Tonopah, and then you kicked forward to this meeting of some items that you should have handled while you were up there. And I might add that you've kicked forward into the next commissioners meeting items that should have been handled here, except you guys refused to put on your big boy and big girl pants and address the items and vote on one way or the other. And I'll get into that in a little bit, but I wanted to bring that up because that's and I'll say this, and I've written on this already today too. So this is a fair warning, I would say. If the commissioners want to take the position that they're going to limit public discourse on the agenda items, then you guys are opening up a bag of worms that you don't even want to get started on. You'll be going down the same route that the town board did, and you'll be met with the same type of opposition. So I would suggest that the other four commissioners take Mrs. Wickman aside and explain to her that here in Pahrump, unlike maybe up north where she comes from, we hold the First Amendment dear to our heart, and we are going to speak out on the issues. The next item I want to carry, although there was a lot of items on that agenda yesterday, I thought the one that was held towards the end of the meeting, I don't know if it was put on the agenda on purpose at the end of the meeting, just so that maybe fewer people would be hanging around the meeting, but it had to do with the county audit. A professional auditing team came in and audited the county books, and I'm telling you, quite frankly, I'm embarrassed for the county commissioners, and I'm embarrassed that our finances are in such disarray. It's just embarrassing. Basically, while this gentleman was giving his report on, by the way, he gave it on both the town of Pahrump and Nye County. There weren't any issues with the town of Pahrump's financial report. It passed with flying colors, but that can't be said for the one from Nye County. And frankly, a person living here now would have to be concerned if the county can't keep their finances in order, then what are they going to do as they're running the town of Pahrump with its financial statement? I guess we'll see that down the line. But I'll tell you one thing, I'm going to keep a spotlight on this particular item because it's affecting us in so many ways right now. Earlier in the meeting yesterday, Mr. Fanning, who is the Public Works Director, basically told people assembled that I can't do anything about roads and issues that people bring up, like I need a emergency light on the street here, or another light eliminating a bad corner there, and so forth, because there isn't any money. The county's it's not just broke. On paper, it's insolvent. I know that it's got investments and so forth set aside, but do we really want to be digging into investment accounts in order to shore up, which was really a poorly planned fiscal budget for the fiscal year beginning June of 2014 and extending to 2015. Now, how's these apples? I've brought this up once before, and it's disgusting. We are right now over $2 million in the red. Now, the auditor hit on this. He went over the figures, but it was just, I was watching the commissioners, and in fact, Commissioner Shinhoven was chuckling and laughing about some of the issues brought up in the audit. Frankly, Commissioner Shinhoven, I don't find it a bit funny that our finances are in such disarray and that you guys haven't been able to address them properly in the first 6 months of the year. Now, according to what I was told after the meeting, and I think it was mentioned during the meeting, that the commissioners over the next couple weeks are going to sit down and address this. But we're down to 5 months left in this year, which means that each month we have to eliminate $400,000 in spending just to break even for the budget, so we're not in the red when the year end comes. Now, can you imagine what this does to the departments in the county, to the employees there? Because guess where these shortfallings, where are they going to be made up at? Are you going to take money that's been set aside for rainy day? Are you going to lay off more employees? Are you going to cut more spending? My God, we've already cut the spending down. And as I've mentioned in previous columns that I've written and on this series of videos, you guys have negotiated labor agreements that are paying county employees 3 times plus what a person living in this county is making who goes to work every day to pay the taxes to fund these abusive wages. Now, I'm sure the people sitting there that let me give you an example. The new elected assessor came before the board, and there was about 6 or 7 requests on the agenda to hire additional people, 2 in the assessor's office and a bunch in the sheriff's department. Evidently, nobody has told these people that when a budget has a shortfalling like we have, you can't use the budgeted numbers that were released last June for the fiscal year as what you're going to determine what your spending is, because you can't spend money you don't have. And the revenue shortfall is huge. And this all came about because I guess the county commissioner decided to use fairy dust or Jack and the Beanstalk beans or something to come up with what they projected for revenue and being available in the budget. What was really striking, what the auditor said, and I've known this, I've been harping on we need to reduce the size of the government and payroll for several years now. Since 2007, every single year county revenue has dropped. And this should not be a surprise, because the vast majority of the revenue is brought in through 2 sources: sales taxes, and then you have property taxes. Well, folks, those watching this, property values tanked when the recession hit here in Southern Nevada. They've not recovered. There's a few building permits being issued now, a few people touching their toe in the water, but frankly, there's empty lots and houses everywhere in the town of Pahrump, and since the town of Pahrump makes up 90% of the county's population, that's where most of the revenue is coming in. Sales tax, listen, this is a rural county. Retail sales have been dropping nationwide and for years now. Why? Because people are buying on the internet, they're ordering from New York, they're ordering from California, and they're not paying sales tax to Nye County or the state of Nevada for those purchases. Sure, they're legally supposed to add up their internet purchases and write a check off to the state of Nevada, but frankly this isn't happening, and anybody that's a fool would understand this. But no, this county commissioners go ahead and bring us out with a budget that here we are halfway through, just over halfway through the fiscal year, and we're $2 million in the red. And to top it off, nobody's bothered to tell these newly elected officials or department heads that, by the way, you can't come looking for new employees. You're going to have to make do. Thirdly, labor negotiations are ongoing right now. Every time we have one of these agendas, there's an item on there that they go into secret meetings because they don't want to disclose publicly what they're talking about, and they're negotiating labor agreements with the various units that the county has working for, sheriff department, county. And by the way, the town of Pahrump has this going on too, because now the commissioners are overseeing town operations, and our county manager, Pam Webster, is also the acting town manager. So it's all tied in together. The sheriff office, for example, the sheriff deputies, their contract expired last July. There's been no new contract brought forth. The public doesn't even know what these people are negotiating, what benefits they're negotiating. And I've written notes to the county commissioners, and I've brought it up in public. A contract negotiation is a two-way street. It's not just the employees coming to the boss and saying, okay, our contract's up, we want more wages, we want more sick leave, we want more health care benefit, we want more. When the contract expires, it's expired. The county has every right now to go in and expect these people to take huge pay cuts. I mean, listen, I brought this up before, and I'm again gonna cover this in another article on tilting a windmill. Most of the revenue that comes into this county, and by the way, into the town, goes to pay wages. The reason the public works director can't figure out how to get a light installed where people are having trouble making it around the corner is because there isn't any money. His employees and other county employees have eaten up all the budget in wages, benefits, and you name it. Another item. You know, this is just driving me crazy here. I'm sorry I get emotional about this. Another item that was brought up during the audit, as you know, I mean you should know, since these county employees and town employees and such are being offered pension plans along with their health care plans and along with their wages, none of this has been set aside. These commissioners are shooting from the, they're shooting in the dark. They don't know what from one year to the next what their real expenses are if they're going to have to start funding somebody's pension, because they haven't set a dime aside to take care of it. And I mean, how embarrassing is that? Now, we went through a spat a few years ago, a couple years ago, I guess, where the county was just spending hundreds of thousands of dollars buying out county employees, because they didn't have the money, I guess, to pay them a monthly pension benefit. So this is really, really shoddy. This is bordering on fiscal. I don't know. There's got to be a legal term for it. It'll come to my head here in a minute, but I'm so riled up about this. So anyway, the county auditor is sitting there going over these items. Like I say, this is towards the end of virtually the last item that was taken up. How many here know that there was a $50,000 expenditure that went out for a Motorola company this last year? Huh? Do you know that? Well, you know why you don't know that, or you've got a funny look on your face? Because it was never agendized on this. It was never subjected to a public hearing, which is a violation of the state law. They have to disclose these type of expenditures to the public so it can be openly discussed. What are they sneaking around? Is this some type of radio program? Motorola sounds like maybe this has something to do with the sheriff department or the emergency services. Why did they think we had $50,000 to blow on radios when we're running in the red all the time? I'm just not getting it. Anyway, it was embarrassing to sit there and listen to the auditor school our county commissioners and have them up there with their smirks on their face like, well, I guess we'll have to deal with this later. Tying into that was actually the other items here, that, like I just got to mentioning. They were items number 25 through, 42 through 47, which was human resources item, of this request for new employees. Now, this new assessor we have, she's a nice lady. I like her. But the assistant she wanted to hire, and as I understand, they approved it. I'd have to look at the video again, but if I remember right, they approved that item for a deputy assessor. Now, we know that the assessor's office needed another set of another employee in there, because the previous assessor had come before this very same board just a couple of months ago asking to hire a part-time person, and I had brought this up, I believe, on one of my videos and also in writing, and the commissioners turned it down flat. No, we can't afford that. It's not in the budget. But it's amazing that it's suddenly in the budget to do this. And let me throw out the number that they mentioned: $116,000 to pay this person. Now, I'm sure that was a number, because you can check the video. All of these meetings, by the way, that if you miss them or you don't catch one of my broadcasts, are on the county website. You can go there and access the meetings. They're videoed, and you can watch the meeting and see this stuff. So you can see that I'm speaking as a person that's in the peanut gallery and concerned about our town and our county in Southern Nevada. But you too should be, and you can do it by watching those meetings and taking notes, and then attending a meeting or sending letters off. You have to speak up, because quite frankly, this is more embarrassing than I can believe. Okay, that's enough on the county audit right now. I'm going to set that aside, because again, it's an issue that's upsetting. What are you going to do about a government that doesn't like to disclose to the public it represents a variety of lawsuits that are floating around? Somebody that works for the county, whether it be an elected official, whether it be an employee, a supervisor, something, that they basically break the law or screw up, and we end up in a lengthy legal battle that is sucking district attorney hours out of the district attorney's office, that is taking money out of the county coffers that could go, by the way, go to be used on putting those lights out there that people say they need, or fixing a pothole in the road. And this money is instead being frittered away on lawsuits. Now, one that's in the paper today, I've got today's Pahrump Valley Times. And by the way, this newspaper has improved markedly since the new editor's taking over. I mentioned that in an article, but I wanted to throw that out here again. But in this paper, it's outlining. This doesn't have to do with the county commissioners. It has to do with the Nye County School Board. Let's take it item that a few years ago now, we had a case where Floyd Elementary School teacher aides, and it even involved the principal of school, were aware of, involved with physically abusing disabled, emotionally disturbed, mentally disturbed, kids that are actually the ones that need the most protection. And people were arrested over it. And my God, this became the subject of a huge lawsuit, something like $12 million lawsuit. Well, it's announced today in the paper, and I'm glad they at least stay on top of these type of items, that the settlement was for $800,000. Okay, let me say that again. $800,000 settlement. Now, people don't settle lawsuits unless they have a good chance of being held liable for a lot more money than that. Now, one could say, well, that was just a bunch of BS and nothing really happened down there. And those teachers' aides and that principal didn't have anything to do with this. Well, I'm going to beg to differ with that, because in my digging around and research and talking to people, talking to people who are involved, what basically happened is the reason nobody was held any more responsible than they were is because the sheriff's department and the DA office screwed up the entire criminal cases. They goofed up. Statements were made. I'm not going to go into that, but basically what happened was former District Attorney Kunze had to throw out the case because it had been screwed up. I know that's a crude term to use, but basically been screwed up. And had it not been screwed up, we would have probably seen a different outcome on that. Instead, they spent a couple of years dilly-dallying around, and nothing became of it. And now the principal from that school that had been arrested, she's up in Tonopah, I guess, a principal at another school up there, and some of the other people are working in the district as well. Now, what is going on here with this Nye County School District? $800,000 the county has to pay out for actions having to do with this. Tying into that, there's another article right up here at the bottom. I don't think you can see it, but I'll just put it out there. And this has to do, and this has been in the news, the Floyd Elementary principal that resigned in the wake of an arrest. Now, our school district hired a person that had been working in Boulder for a few years, and previous to that in the Twin Cities of Minnesota, and I guess maybe some other places. And he had been in Colorado and had actually had criminal proceedings against him. And by coming out here to Nevada, but basically what it is the guy was in violation of his parole agreement from back there. I don't know what all the details are in Colorado, but he had some obligations regarding parole, and he violated them. So here's the story. He's with his girlfriend, or whatever she is, living with him in his house or at his house here, and he's accused of domestic violence, and he gets arrested by the sheriff's deputies. And when they look into him, there's a hold on him from Colorado for parole violation. Oh my God. Well, the guy spends a few days in jail and gets out. I don't know if there's any, what's going to come of any of that, whether it was just a he said, she said. But the point is what's come up after that. Basically, when the Nye County School District's been asked about this, here's what they say. They blame the state of Nevada for lack of oversight in hiring this guy to begin with. The state of Nevada vets these people coming in to teach, I guess, in our school district. But the bottom line, and this is true in any business or any place I've ever been, the buck always stops for the head. You can, for just a few dollars, go online these days and find out any criminal information you want about individuals across the country. The records are there. You can pull them up and see for yourself. When we're talking about children in our school districts that we're paying tax dollars to educate and care for while their parents don't have custody of them, this is a very serious matter, folks. And to just say that the state didn't do the proper vetting, where's the superintendent in this? Where's the human resources department from Nye County School District in this? Why can't they pick up the phone and check on these teachers or future employees? I don't want to hear about this at the county, the school district. Well, we let the state take care of all that for us, and then if they say it's okay, we hire. I don't want to trust my grandkids if they come here to live to a system where, well, just maybe somebody checked on them at the state level and maybe they didn't. But I'll tell you one thing right now, my taxes are going to pay the Nye County Superintendent's wages, the Human Resources Department's wages, and all the principals in the school district wages, and I don't want you slacking off when it comes to the safety of our kids. And I'm going to stay on top of the school district issue going forward until we don't hear any more stories about kids being abused, $800,000 legal settlements that we're having to kick in money for. That could be, the school district says, oh, we got to repair the school district buildings. We have the walls and the roofs are falling down. Well, how'd you like to have the $800,000 for that, Nye County? Yeah, well, you don't have it now because it's gone. Whether it be the insurance company that paid for it, which again would affect the rates that the county has to pay for insurance. That's the way it is in the private sector anyway. I think they do have some type of a pooling insurance agreement, but what's it going to look like when what's going on over in Nye County? I brought this up. I'm going to throw this out there too as we get into this, because we've been talking in this episode about the budget and the red, how far we are in the red. So I'm going to bring it up once again. Another little sneaky little case that was out there that I didn't hear about until it was rumored and posted in the Pahrump Valley Times that a source told them that we paid out $250,000 to a party, and her picture was in the paper. She's sort of well known, kind of a character here in Pahrump. But basically what happened is one of our sheriff detectives coerced her, threatened to arrest her if she did not make false claims against a woman in I believe the school district offices. There again, school district involved in this, and this came to light, and now we had to kick out $250,000 to settle this case. And how many of these are out there is what I want to know. I think the county should begin disclosing to the public these lawsuits. Are they hidden somewhere on the county's website? Frankly, I couldn't find them. I've been all over that website looking to see. Is there a source we could go to? What do we have to do? Go down to the courthouse and find out who's suing us? This should be disclosed to the public. These commissioners and these department heads and that owe it to me and you watching this to tell us what's going on instead of having to stumble across it. This is our money, our tax dollars that's being wasted on these lawsuits. And that ties in with what the town did. The town basically, before the town board went out, they sued the taxpayers, the people that vote, because they didn't agree with being thrown out of office at the polls. That set us back hundreds of thousands of dollars. All these little things these people are doing are costing us hundreds of thousands of dollars, and this in a situation where each month, each year, there's less and less revenue to pay on services. Remember, the purpose of government is not business. I've brought that up in the past, not a business. The purpose is to serve the public. The purpose of the sheriff's department is serve the public. The purpose of the road department is to serve the public. They're serving us. They're not serving us if all the money is going out on wages, benefits, and being frittered away in lawsuits. Frittered away. I just mentioned over $1 million, $1.5 million just in the last few minutes talking here of money that's gone or liability that's had to be taken off the book. And when these lawsuits come up, the county has to oftentimes, and so did the town, get private law firms to handle the litigation. The DA can't run around litigating all this stuff. I'm sure the new DA, Angela Bello, is trying to get out from underneath some of these problems that she inherited. But the bottom line goes down to this: it's the taxpayers that are the ones most affected. It's the people that expect services from the county, like a pothole filled in, or to have a light installed somewhere, or to have something else done. We're the ones suffering. I brought this up yesterday at just after lunch with maybe we should just close down the county government, close it all down. If it's all this is going to be is a vehicle for people to get high wages with little or no services being offered to the public, then what's the sense of keeping it around? If most of I don't know. I'm gonna go on for here. Here's another item that came up. What happens if you have a life-threatening event occur? An accident, your house is on fire, your wife, your husband, one of your kids is seriously injured, need a medical care. You pick up the phone and what do? You dial 11 on your dial, right? And somebody comes on from emergency dispatch. Well, guess what? The 9/11 system went down for Nye County. Did you hear about it? I didn't hear about it. I didn't hear about it till attending the meeting yesterday. I'm going to give you a brief overlay what I was told yesterday by the county employee that came before the commissioners explaining this. And by the way, as he was explaining it, I didn't hear any real questions from the commissioners like, how could we do this better or what have you. He was just basically dictating to them the events that occurred. But because I've been in business virtually my entire adult life, a lot of red flags came up with what he was saying. The system has basically has a 9/11 system, and it's got, in case of power outages, like the power goes down, a switching device switches power to a generator. If the generator fails, it switches to a battery backup. Well, guess what? There was a brownout, evidently, of electricity. The sensing system failed to switch over and switch power to the generator. And there would be a little pause there. I think he's, you know how a generator stops up, it'd take a little pause to kick in. Well, there's a battery backup too that can handle the emergency operations until something's done about the power outage. Well, this whole thing failed, and here's why it failed. And anybody that's had a recreational vehicle or dependent on a battery for a standby system knows that you have to be sure your batteries are up to speed, that they're fully charged, that they're tested and working. Because what you don't want to have in an emergency is for your batteries to fail on you. Well, guess what? Our batteries failed on us. Why did they fail on us? Well, here's what this guy tells us. He says that, well, the batteries were up to the point where they were needing, this was the replacement point. They were worn out, and that he had actually been, in touch with vendors or what have you to buy new batteries when this unfortunate event happened. I was kind of at a loss of words when I heard that, because let me explain to you what I used to do when I was had my my business was much larger. I used to buy used tires from the fire department. And the fire department and the sheriff department, police departments, and 9/11 are kind of all the same type of operations. They're emergency services. We need them now. We don't need them, we don't need a 911 call to just ring and nobody answer the phone. So what the fire department did is way before a tire wore out, they had it in their law, in their regulations, to replace the tires. And I used to buy these tires for a really good price because there was plenty of wear left on them. It wasn't a safety factor in the tires that I was using on my equipment, but the fact of the matter is that they didn't want to take a chance that there would be a blowout or failure by having a tire fail. Can you imagine our sheriff department or fire department here running around with bald tires on their vehicles? You call up, you got a fire, and oh, by the way, we couldn't get over to your house, we blew a tire. Of course not. This equipment has to be maintained. Well, I'm going to say right here that somebody dropped the ball in letting these batteries get to a point where they didn't have any charge in them and couldn't operate the system. Now, I hope to God nobody was negatively impacted when they picked up the phone and dialed 911. Of course, we may not even know. There may have been somebody that passed away or whatever that had picked up the phone and couldn't get through, and that's that. So something needs to be definitely looked at into that. And no, I'm not taking this guy's excuses that he presented. Oh, by the way, here's one of the things he said. He's now looked into a new 21st century switching device. The other one's about 17 years old. And of course, this problem can be solved for $16,000, the new switching device. Listen, buddy, it wasn't the switching device that failed. It was the batteries that failed. And we could buy a lot of batteries for $16,000. So you better get with the program, and I hope the county commissioners will follow up on this a little bit more. This is another item I'm going to stay on top of. As many of you know, here's another item. At the last commissioners meeting, and I've been doing research on these items, trying to figure out where the money's leaking out of our coffers. I brought to the attention of my readers that the Pahrump Fire Department ambulance service lost $700,000 last year. $700,000. So they've been operating an ambulance service that's costing the taxpayers $700,000 over what it's been budgeted for. So why has this been going on? Well, if you have insurance, oftentimes the insurance company doesn't pay the full billed amount. A typical ride, and I know this because I got billed and had to pay for it, for the ambulance from Pahrump to UMC, which is the University Medical Center, which is the trauma center for Southern Nevada, was $1,600 to get flopped into the back of a county, basically the emergency vehicle, and hauled over to the hospital. $1,600. But if the insurance company, let's just say the insurance company paid $800, or Medicare paid even less than that, the person is supposed to make up the difference on this. We're not running a charitable situation here, not with the budgets budget shortfalls we have. Let me ask you a question, viewer. Is it the responsibility of Nye County and Pahrump taxpayers to pay somebody's ambulance bill to a hospital in Las Vegas? Is it? Or do we have a problem where there's been a really poorly run debt collecting action on the part of the people managing that end of the fire department, the ambulance? Is anybody going after these people and saying, by the way, your insurance company paid us $1,100 and we'd like to have the other $500? Now, granted, a few cases could probably just be written off that, listen, they're just, you can't get water out of a rock, I guess it would be a good way to say it. If the person that you hauled off to in an emergency situation is flat broke and can only pay you $5, and that's all you're going to get out of them. But $700,000 worth of bad debt, it's just further away. And this kind of ties in with, and I've got a gentleman that wants to talk to me about this that works down there. We haven't really caught up because I think he feels that I'm picking on him in the department about maybe we need to turn the ambulance service over to a private contractor. Why not? Turn it over. Let somebody else run it. Big cities all over the country run their fire department and ambulance services through private contractors. There's nothing written in stone that we have to have a publicly funded, it wouldn't be publicly funded, but I mean publicly managed and ran fire department ambulance service. It's not there. This is something that the county needs to be looking into. They're now overseeing town finances, and they're in control of the ambulance department. Are we going to have another $700,000 shortfall next year? This is our money that we're talking about here, our tax dollar. So the least they can do is tighten up the budget a little bit. What's some other items that have come up, recently that need some attention here in the town, here in the county? I would say that, and I mentioned this, the high wages, and I mentioned this fact that people are still coming forward and from different departments and asking, geez, we need to get funded on new employees. that somebody needs to send a letter, uh, post it on the bulletin boards, tell the employees affected that, hey, there's not going to be, you're going to have to pick up the slack. In fact, we're probably going to have to cut more people out of your department to make up for this $2 million we're in the red. And so there's not going to be any help coming. You're going to have to figure a way to efficiently operate the county, and and if it gets to it, the town of Pahrump's fine right now, according to the auditor, but who knows? The way that everything's being managed right now, how long will that be good for? But somebody needs to tell these people that, hey, don't be coming up with the budget request increases or requests for money to fund somebody that you want to hire. The money is not there. It's not there. You can't hire that extra person. You're going to have to tell everybody they're going to have to become more efficient. And this is not something that is weird or odd. One of the excuses used for the sheriff hiring was that, there's a lieutenant that retired, left the force up in Beatty, and so that position has not been filled. Or this other position, somebody quit, and that position had not been filled. Or in the case of the district attorney, she also had a position on there. The person that, Sharon Worley, that became our new sheriff, she used to be an investigator in the district attorney's office. Well, now that she's sheriff, there's a vacancy in the district attorney's office. And Angela, geez, I need another investigator in the office. What am I going to do? I can't get the job done. Well, I'm sorry, you're the elected district attorney. You figure out what you're going to do with the manpower you have there, because there's no money to hire you another investigator in DA's office. There's no money to hire another lieutenant, or the lieutenant wages to make up for the guy that left in Beatty. There's no money to hire an undersheriff in the county, a position that was eliminated years ago as not being needed. Maybe at one time there was a need for all this upper management in the sheriff's department when the sheriff's department was expanding and growing, and the county was growing, and funds were rolling in all the time. But not now. It was found at that time, services are shrinking. We've got fewer dollars, fewer people. We don't need another person telling people. What we need is people out in the field supervising people, not taking money that was designed to do that and hire other people. The whole thing. Anyway, like I said, somebody needs to send a letter, dear department head, dear sheriff, dear what have you, due to our budget situation, there's not going to be any money to hire this new person for your that you've requested. And by the way, continuing on in this line, since revenue has been shrinking every year, it shrank 3% this last year from the year before, since 2007, the county commissioners, when they're getting together, their heads together with all department heads, and anticipating the budget that will run from fiscal year June 15th of 2015, this year, to 2016, it needs to be reduced. Sure, you're $2 million right now, but guess what? You're going to have less revenue next year than you're going to have this year. No, I'm not a prophet. No, I'm not. I don't have a magic wand. I don't have a ball I'm looking into. I'm simply looking at the stats. You should have known this when you put this budget together last year, that each year is shrinking. We need to lower it even lower. And you didn't do the job this year, and you left everybody else wondering what to do with their budget. So this coming year, maybe you need to cut another few $1 million off your projected spending, a certain percentage, because according to the auditor, this is going on statewide. I guess this auditor deals with other counties and the government. It's an ongoing problem. Revenues are shrinking. They're doing it so every year. So let's take a look at why the revenues are shrinking here for just a second. I might have mentioned this, I'm going to say it again because I want to emphasize this point. There are empty houses all over out here. The house next door to my own is vacant. One kitty corner across me is vacant. The one behind our property is vacant. Why? Because people had them foreclosed on and nobody's bought the houses. This has put a downward pressure on the sales price of homes. There's no magic bullet for this, and there's no like, how can we do a gimmicky thing? Because the state has a law in place that limits what property taxes can be raised each year, and for good reason. It's time for governments to work within their budgets and not be constantly going to the taxpayer for higher and higher taxes. When was the last time you seen a tax go down? You know, once these taxes get in place, they go down. I think I mentioned this the other day in one of my articles, but I'll throw it out here again. Rumor has it that one of the commissioners is pushing for a fuel tax increase. 3 cents a gallon, 5 cents a gallon, something like this. You know, nervously needing more revenue. We don't need more revenue. We need you guys to watch your expenses and quit having people sue us and us spending hundreds of thousands of dollars basically covering the screw-ups you guys have. We don't need any new taxes. We don't, we don't need anything like that. So anyway, that's that issue. Going on here. When I came back from lunch yesterday at the meeting here, pulled into the parking lot off the Calvet Eye, there wasn't a parking spot. Earlier in the day, there'd been plenty of parking spots down there, and the chambers were the normal number of people in there. But I thought I was going to have to park in a ditch. I finally went way over to another part of the facilities and sort of found a parking spot. I don't know if some employee went to lunch or something, but I took their parking spot. So when I walk into the chambers, what am I greeted with? Lots of senior citizens. The chambers were 80% filled up with senior citizens and their supporters. And why were they there? Well, because there was a agenda item and by the way, a very good presentation on a proposed transit system to be set up here in Pahrump. The transit system to serve senior citizens, I guess, and other citizens, to be, maybe the people pay $1 or $2. That was the figures thrown out there for a ride, which is way under what it would cost under any normal situation. And there was a route, like a sort of a figure-8 route, and these people were, in the audience. Yay, we need this transit system so we can get around. Some of us can't get around, and it's a well thought out program. There's a huge grant going to take care of most of the maintenance on the vehicles and most of the purchase of the vehicles. Anyway, all the county basically had to come up with was county offices, I guess, so they can have a place to operate out of, and a portion of the operating cost. Well, this was kicked down the line. The audience, one of the commissioners, Dan Chenhoven, started to get brave and bring up some of the stuff I've been talking about here. It's like, listen, I like your program, we don't have the money. But another commissioner, Commissioner Borowski, he spoke out and said to the audience, how many in the audience think this is a great plan? And so, of course, all these people that came to support this transit system raised their hand. And so it looked, I guess, from the commissioner's standpoint that, man, we're sitting here with a hostile audience if we just turn this down. So what they basically did is they punted it forward. They're not going to, they told the person presenting it, you go do all the, more legwork or whatever and get everything together. All we're going to do is agree to allow you to apply for the grant. Now let's just say the grant was applied for, and I'm sure it's going to be, because the people pushing this really believe, and most people I believe in the community believe that some type of transit system is needed around here. But where's the money going to come from, commissioners, to pick up your end of the tab? You can't even keep $2 million out of, keep us from being in the red. And I'm sure you're thinking about that. There's not going to be any money to fund this. Well, why didn't you tell the people this in the audience? Why didn't you tell these elderly people that we know you probably want to have a funding for this, but there's no money. Do you want to pay for it? Anyway, after this, there was a break that took place, and I was milling around talking to people, and I was listening to people, and by the way, after this was voted on, of course these seniors all walked out, and I had taken a break, went to use the restroom, and I looked, stepped outside to get some fresh air, and I noticed all these seniors loading themselves into cars and heading on, heading back home, I guess. And I came back into the commissioner's chambers, and I was talking to people there, and one guy he says to me, don't you find it funny that these people are asking for the public to pick up the tabs on a transit system, yet they didn't have any problem getting down to this meeting off the Nevada High? And I hadn't thought about it, but I guess, I guess that is kind of strange. I guess they didn't have any problem getting down here for the meeting. Now, I'm sure there's more concern, more issues of that some of these people need to get into doctor's appointments and what's for it. Well, then another guy piped in, a friend of mine who lives further north in the county. He says, well, what right do they have coming to the Nye County Commissioners for a funding request for a transit system for Pahrump? He says, where we live, we're not going to be using any transit system, yet our property taxes, sales taxes, will be used to make up the difference in the grant money. Why should we be on the hook for that? Again, I listened to him. I don't have an answer for that. Why should he be on the hook for it? He doesn't even live here. He lives an hour north of here. And the same way with the people in the northern part of the county. Why should somebody up in Gabbs be worried about a transit system for seniors way down here in Pahrump? Good point. And then there was another guy who was like I was in Barter. I don't know why I was catching all this, but the conversation was going on. Okay, I'll lay it out kind of the way I wrote about it, because this is kind of what it amounted to. These people that are in the audience, these seniors that are settled here, most of them lived here for decades, years and years and years. And anybody that lives in Nye County, and particularly around Pahrump area, that this is I'm going to throw the name, Ron Paul, quote, level of conservatism that exists in this area. Less taxes, small government, rural, self-sufficiency, and they don't want the government expanding. So these same people that are in the audience basically begging for a transit system to carry them around at this late stage in their life, it was thrown in my face. Well, what right do they have now speaking out saying, geez, we'd like commissioners to pick up the tab and the federal government to pick up the tab for their running around town doing what they need to do. Now, I'm not saying they don't have things to do, and many of them might be, have no way of getting around, hardly any, unless they call somebody or there is a taxi service to call. But I mentioned that was brought up in this discussion too, and oh my God, it's too expensive. Well, too expensive for what? I mean, if I needed a taxi cab, I could call up. I'll be 67 years old in less than a month. I'm senior. One of the guys I'm talking to that brought that up, he's 75 years old. Another guy I'm talking to, he's 78 years old. We're all seniors. We didn't have any problem getting down to the meeting yesterday. We're conservatives. In fact, I'm further to the right in many regards than probably Ron Paul on some items. But, it's how you plan your life. If you're going to live in a rural county, a conservative county, one of self-sufficiency and low taxes, then you can't, at a later stage in your life, come asking everybody to pick up the tab. What you should be doing, I suppose, and this was, I got out of the conversation. Like I said, I was just listening. I didn't have any answers for the guys bring this up. I was listening and observing so I could report to you on this and in my running. You're supposed to plan for these things. When you're a self-sufficient, conservative person, you don't get yourself to be 85 years old and not have any way to get around. You plan these things out. You know, you have family, you have neighbors, you have some type of cooperative effort among you to get around. Now the senior center out there that I've gone out to men's breakfasts out there. They have these little buses that go around and deliver citizens around town. So this transit system would be in addition to that. I think it's a great idea. And let me bring out one more of that. A guy that lives out by me, he says, well, what do you think? He says, there's none of these buses that are going to come out where we're at. And I says, well, yeah, I mean, when you look at what they're talking about this figure 8, if I wanted to hop on those buses, I'd have to walk 7 miles because Pahrump is really spread out. And, and so anyway, I'm not going to walk 7 miles to hop on a bus. And nobody out in my end of, southern end of Pahrump is going to have use for that bus. So I guess it gets down to, like he was saying, why should we pay for the transit service? So shouldn't the people picking up the tab be the residents of Pahrump that would be using the service? That's the way a lot of things are. People who use the service in a Ron Paul type existence, they pay for the services. One other item that I didn't even hear brought up, and I'm going to throw that out as if I'm ending this program here today, is that there's a procedure called LIDS. I think it's LIDS, but I'm not sure how exactly on that. But what it is when you want to create a district, like say the residents of a particular part of a town want a sewer expansion into their town. These are districts that are set up, and then the people whose property affected, that they're going to be hooking up these sewer, would be charged on their property tax as the fee needed to finance that sewer coming in, or water, I suppose for anything. And then their property tax bill goes up to, over a period of years designed to pay off the amount it took to put the capital project in. So maybe that would be a thing that these people can, you guys want the service in this 8 thing, or maybe bigger thing, then the people that are going to be using the service, the property in those areas, the property owners be picking up the service. Well, that's all I got today, folks. I've kind of rambled on. I got a little carried away here, but you can see that we have some serious problems that need to address on the commissioner level, on department head levels, and some of the other areas I brought up. And I'll keep pointing the spotlight on these issues, and I'll see you again next week. Bye-bye now.